You know what I mean? I'm doing this my way.
He a legend, he a legend, he a legend. He a legend, he a legend, he a legend. He a legend. Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of items. Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of items.
Pickle money, pickle money, pickle money. We make it.
That had to be horrible audio when I turned on the mic by accident. But I'm thirsty. It's been a thirsty kind of day. What's up, everybody? It's Pikel with League of Items. And in today's video, we're going to talk about a whole bunch of different regions and the stuff that happened yesterday, as well as the stuff that will happen tomorrow. So OMG won one of the games yesterday against RNG, which I kind of figured they'd have a really good chance to. Cream's a really good player, but RNG obviously is just a better team overall than OMG. We don't have any matches tomorrow, but the following day on the 27th, we have BLG against Rare Atom and EDG against FPX. So those are two pretty good matchups. I am biased towards BLG and EDG for sure. I just don't like Rare Atom in general. So that's something to watch out for tomorrow. But I don't really have anything else I want to say about that matchup specifically. The next match in the Korean playoffs is T1 against Kwangdong Freaks. Yesterday Kwangdong beat DRX, so T1 selected Kwangdong, which was not surprising. That's kind of what everyone assumed they would do. Gen G is actually a very big favorite, or a surprisingly big favorite over them on the following day, but we'll see how the line moves. So right now, T1 is a minus 1,600 favorite against Kwangdong. You're not betting on T1 at that number, and you're not going to bet on Kwangdong. If you wanted to bet on them at all, you should bet on them in individual games. I think that the first and second games, like, I could see you betting at like plus 250, no, it'll probably be even higher than that. It'll probably be like plus 300, probably plus 250. Probably around plus 250 for every individual game. I would look for that. Anything higher than that is an auto bet, I think. Just to pick up one game, I mean, if you didn't want to, I could see why you wouldn't want to. It seems unlikely because T1 is so powerful, but that's the best time to shoot at those kinds of things specifically. Maybe look for some unders. That would be interesting. So Keen against Zeus. Actually, let's get the other screen up. So Keen against Zeus. Keen can definitely win in top lane. Ellum with the revenge narrative. That's always fun. Owner is a good jungler. I mean, they were all a part of the same team last year. I obviously Owner has looked much better this year because his team has continuously won. Fate against Faker. Fate is fated to lose against Faker because Fate is a fake faker, meaning a fake mid laner. That was off the top of my dome. I know, very impressive. So, yeah, T1 has the advantage in that lane. And then Teddy, another ex-T1 player. And Hoyt against Gumayusi and Keria, the MVP. That's not very surprising. It's not going to be very surprising to you that I prefer T1. I would pick T1. But like I said, I would consider betting on Kwangdong in individual games if the number was up over 250, and I think it might actually be around plus 300. That would be pretty good. But that's basically all there is tomorrow in the LCK. It's not a very exciting match, so we don't have to spend any more time on it. In the LEC tomorrow, we have... All right, let's just go over today. So in today's match, we had Rogue up against Misfits, and Rogue was pretty dumb. No, did not mean to click that. Okay. Like, I get it. I already use that I know that website. Like, you don't need to shove it in my face. Rogue against Misfits. Rogue definitely looked like the better team. I think that people forgot. Well, something just popped over there. That's not good. So let's just look at the scoreboards. People forgot how good Larson was. Larson's very good. In the first game, I thought it was pretty funny. They actually did ban out Lee Sin, and it was definitely the right thing to do. But we can just go through the rest of the scoreboard before talking about the individual stuff. So Otawamne on Rumble against Hyrit on Gnar. Rumble is good against Gnar. Rumble is underplayed. Rumble wins the laning. Well, you can go kind of even with the Gnar, but in a lot of the games today between the LEC and the LCS specifically, again, we see the Gnar having the conditional engage. So if teams are playing around Gnar's rage bar correctly, then he doesn't have anywhere near the amount of threat that he would otherwise, especially when losing. When you are winning, it's easier to control your rage bar. When you're in a losing position, the other team will most likely be able to engage when you don't have an optimal amount of rage for the team fight. I guess optimal is not the right word, but have the ability to activate the Gnar bar on your own terms. That's really what you want. So that was an interesting little pivot. Malrung also plays Jungle Rumble, so I think that we might actually see that in the future, where if they want to blind something, they might blind pick Rumble as a top laner. I don't know if it even works in the jungle anymore. Like, I don't know if the clears are good enough. But theoretically, something like that could happen. Might have to try that one out. I was thinking about Jungle Ahri. I don't think it's going to work, though. Then, like I said before, in the jungle, we have Malrung on J4 against Zlatan on Xin Zhao. And the Lee Sin ban was very smart. I think especially in the first game, introduce doubt. Make them, if you genuinely think that he is not a good, well, if you think that he is very good at Lee Sin but less good at everything else, make him prove it. Like in game 1, if he came out on Xin Zhao and dominated Rogue in the first game, then they're like, okay, give him Lee Sin. Don't fight him. Don't fight him anymore. Which would have been pretty funny, but I think the read was the correct one. Like, force him to not play Lee Sin, and you should increase your win percentage. Larson on Lucian against Vetio on Zoe. This was a very interesting thing to do. I think that Lucian does very well against the Zoe in lane, so that counter pick is good. I think the reason why it happens is because Lucian is very mobile, so his additional mobility allows him to get out of, like, if he gets hit by a Zoe bubble, there are some times where he can just outrange it with his dash. But the more important thing is that you can be aggressive. So in the early laning phase, Lucian has much more damage than Zoe does in the laning phase. And even when she hits 6, she's probably not going to be able to control the wave state to poke Lucian. So Lucian will be able to, like, whenever she uses her ultimate to dash forward, he can Q her, and it should hit her whether or not she's really close to you or in the portal. So that's pretty good. Also, you can kind of dash at her when she's doing that. She just becomes a little predictable, and that's a good thing for Lucian players. If the other player is going to be predictable, you have a better chance to land your abilities, which he's not a difficult champion to land his abilities, but their predictable movement allows Lucian to exploit them because of his hypermobility. Caitlyn Lux against Zeri Leona. That is pretty much about being able to dominate the early game, so they did a good job with that one. There were some times where the Lux seemed a little vulnerable to being engaged on, which is just, that's how the champion goes. So I like that they were able to play that type of composition. It's a little bit unique, and it highly prioritizes dragons and the early game, which I think is very intelligent. And as we move away from a Jinx Aphelios meta, not only will teams need to adapt the champions they're playing, they will also need to pivot towards a more aggressive playstyle in the early game centered around dragons because they talked about it indirectly on the LCS broadcast. When you get rid of very strong late game AD carries or nerf their ability to completely dominate the meta, you will have champions. You want to have champions that can have strong early games because it's going to make your team more likely to get Dragon Soul, and Dragon Soul is worth roughly 5,000 gold, no matter which Dragon Soul that it is. So it's a huge influx of gold for your team in terms of stats. Some teams won't take advantage of every different stat that's out there, but you want to give yourself that additional, the additional statistics. That's just how it is. So watch out for that moving forward. Game 2, they dropped the Lee Sin ban. Zlatan gets Lee Sin, didn't really do much. Odoamne, Jace against Camille. Good matchup. Obviously, if you win the early game, you kind of win the game. And that's exactly what happened. This was a pretty dominant one from Rogue. Malrong on the Volibear against Lee Sin. That's a good matchup for him as well. Larson on Azir, a very popular champion, or a very favorable champion for Larson. He's played a lot of it in his career. And he had the win in this game. Then we had Aphelios against Xayah. Aphelios just a better champion. I know that the Xayah theoretically has the chance to that was weird. Aphelios can get outranged, and the Xayah can play really aggressively in the early game, and that's really what she has to do in order to win. But then you're on a clock, and you're not only on a clock against the Aphelios, you're also on a clock against the Azir, and you have the worst side of the Volibear Lee Sin matchup. So just a tough spot for Misfits there. The predictability of the Lee Sin does theoretically give Rogue chances to exploit it, but you can't really trust that. Then we had the next game. They get Lee Sin again. They get Lee Sin again, and this is where Zlatan kind of made it clear, like, I am a Lee Sin player, because he was able to do a lot of work in the early game. Again, they go for the Xayah against the Aphelios. They won early game hard enough. The Kai'Sa mid pick, I think, is going to be something that kind of highlights the different reasons that teams pick champions. The Korean teams have an idea for the Kai'Sa when they're using it. Rogue just thought it was a strong champion from their scrims, and they didn't really use it the right way. And when I'm saying they didn't use it the right way, there weren't the necessary conditions to have a Kai'Sa that makes it good enough to be picked. Like, if you just think about it, every time that she shoots out her W, yeah, she can do a bunch of damage, but that's basically it. She's like a bad poke champion. I just don't really see the Kai'Sa being a good pick blind, and I don't see it being a good pick when you can get blown up by the LeBlanc. And that's basically what happened in this game. Then the next game, Rogue, this one was very dominant. So Gnar against Kennen, both sides of the matchup are pretty good. Kennen has a good teamfight ultimate. If the game is close, the game was not close. So we had three Jarvan games, one Volibear game. Same kind of style for Malrong. Didn't really get anything too new. They pulled out the Kai'Sa and it fell flat on its face. You already knew that Odoamne could play both sides of all those matchups. Larson's still playing champions that we know that he's good at outside of the Kai'Sa. And then Comp showed a Zeri game. So Zeri Yuumi is something that teams will have to have in the back of their mind moving forward. In tomorrow's game, we have Fnatic against G2. Fnatic, clearly the more likely team to win this matchup. That was weird. So let's just go lane by lane real quick. So Wonder against Broken Blade. I think Broken Blade can win that matchup. Razork against Yonkos. I think that Razork is slightly favored, but again, Yonkos can Jankos is the player who can play the Jarvan, Volibear, Hecarim. Like, he can play the kind of brain dead side of all these matchups, which I'm not saying that he needs to play brain dead champions because he's brain dead. It's just that's the better playstyle for him in this matchup. Caps is just a better player than Humanoid in general. Humanoid is a TF bot, and I hope that G2 allows him to play TF and just rolls over him. And I know a lot of the time I say, you know, if you know what some player is good at, you probably just want to ban it out. With somebody like Humanoid and a champion like TF, I think that it's probably okay if you just attack him. And that would make him look worse. So I definitely want that to happen. Flocket and Targamas against Upset and Hillsong. Upset and Hillsong, definitely the better side of that matchup. So it's really like, do you think the top half of the map can win hard enough? And now that we're moving away from Jinx and Aphelios a little bit, like, you can see a lot of teams know that that's a viable like game to draft. We're going to see more of it. Hopefully G2 opts to go in that direction. I think Dylan Falk was a very smart coach. I think that he will realize that Fnatic's bot lane is really their strong point and will prepare something to get them off of the hyper carries, or and this is very possible, he might just give them a hyper carry bot lane and attack it. So I would say that I guess the main decision for G2 is going to be, would we rather attack mid lane or attack bot lane? But you have to attack if you're G2, because if you just wait to get outscaled, you will get outscaled. So I think that Fnatic is definitely the more likely side to win. If I had to pick a side, it would be Fnatic, but I want G2 to win, and it's not even close. It would be great if Fnatic lost, in my mind. That is a large advertisement. So let's go through the LCS games real quick. Team Liquid slapped around Golden Guardians, not surprising. Evil Geniuses beat up on FlyQuest. I respect the Riven pick. That kind of stuff's pretty cool. Evil Geniuses, please make the playoffs. Please, I'm begging you. Just do something. It's like the meme with the guy poking the thing on the floor with a stick. Cloud9 against Dignitas, that game was never very close. Pretty dominant performance from Cloud9, even though they didn't have a lot of kills. This CLG Immortals game was out of control. CLG had a huge deficit, made a comeback, gave away an even larger gold lead, I think, and then made another comeback. So good for them. I still have a bet on them to make playoffs. So, if they make playoffs, I will win money. So I'm rooting for CLG aggressively the rest of the week. Jinx is good. And then game 1, 2, 3, 4. Then game 5. We had 100 Thieves against TSM. That game was never close. Tomorrow we have Team Liquid against Dignitas. Obviously, we're on the Team Liquid side there. TSM against CLG. I'm on the CLG side there because I want them to win, because I need them to win. Cloud9 against 100 Thieves. That line is pretty close. I would expect that number to get bet, so I will wait until right before the game and try to pick 100 Thieves. I just think that once it hits a certain number, you're probably getting a good enough value on that. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then we have Golden Guardians against EG. It's going to be a tough match for EG because they do embrace volatility sometimes in the early game. Golden Guardians drafts early. That can go bad for Evil Geniuses, but I definitely want Evil Geniuses to win. I have my biases. I want EG. And then FlyQuest against Immortals. I think that FlyQuest is just a better team than Immortals. Immortals is doing a lot of roster swaps now. They have Wild Turtle. That's really all you got to know about that. Definitely on the FlyQuest side. So that's it. Thanks for watching. If you want to help support the channel, like, comment, subscribe. Check out thrivefantasy.com. Use the promo code PIKEL. Forgot to do that in the beginning of the video. Can't do anything about that now. But again, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.